What's up, folks? So this is going to be part 4 of the Tour X update. Got a lot done, still waiting on some parts to come through, waiting on the front fairing still. It's getting painted currently, but I've got a whole lot done, and we're going to go over it today. That way we can check the box, because if I wait too long, too much will pass through. It's so much that I've even made a list. So let's go ahead and dive into it together. First things first, the tank isolators. I went ahead and replaced those, just like I talked about in the last video. They needed to be done, and now the tank is really tight, really secure, and shouldn't have any problems with vibrations and things like that going forward. Next thing is I finished the handlebars, the controls, got all that set up, everything's plugged in, everything's wired up. Got the extended wires, extended cables, brake cable, and new clutch cable. The videos I did separate on those. One is for bleeding the brakes, and then one is for bleeding the hydraulic clutch. It goes over the branding and everything like that, the links, all of that is in those videos, so if you're interested in that, check out the videos on that. They're separate. Let's go ahead and move over to the front fairing, and we'll show you what's been done there. Now I'm going to attach a picture of what the fairing looked like when I bought it. Like I said, in the first couple of videos, I replaced the inner fairing. So this is all brand new, replaced the radio. This is still the same switch panel, it was custom made, so we're going to keep that, it works perfect. What has been changed? So I installed 5¼ inch speakers in here, along with the original Harley-Davidson, or factory Harley-Davidson screens, metal screens. Those look really good, really factory. Hopefully it picks up here in the video. It just looks like it's meant to be, because it is meant to be that way. These are 1-inch tweeters from Rockford Fosgate. These are really nice. They rotate a little bit here. I'm not exactly sure how important that is or why that is, but these sound really good. Up here I have the Kicker 4-inch pods. Originally in a Harley-Davidson, these would all be gauges, but I did not want it to just be open and empty and just plugged with something like it was when I first bought the bike. There was some like chrome mesh that was covering these up. There were some gauges that I'm going to put back in here. They're just marine grade gauges. One's an outside temperature gauge, the other one's an analog clock. This thing hits. It plays some good loud music. I'm not a huge fan of playing music out loud like that. I have the Sena in my helmet, but there's times where it's really hot, depending on the situation. In a tour bike like this, you're going to have the fairing, might as well make it right with the audio. And that's what we've done here. Originally on a Harley, this would be like your shifter, I would imagine. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure this shows you, if you're in neutral, things like that. Well, the original owner took a Excelsior Henderson pin and did that. So I went ahead and put that back on there. I think that looks really nice. The little pods here to put those gauges back in are on back order. They're supposed to be in on July 18th, so I'm waiting for those to come in so I can put those little pods back in. Little gauges. They're chrome and they look really nice, and it'll complement the covers I have here. Basically what I did is I ordered 2 sets of the factory speaker screens. I cut these down, glued them on the inside of some chrome rings, some beauty rings, and then attached them inside. That way you still get the same look as the 5-inch speakers as well, or 5¼ Once I get the new gauges in here, this is going to look really nice, really factory, and it's a big upgrade to the way it looked when I first bought the bike. Another upgrade I made since the last video is there was a hole down here, which is for a 12-volt plug. I wasn't going to put in one because I have the USB port on the other side, but I had one of these laying around. The hole was already there. It was easy to wire up, and so I said, what the heck, might as well. So I also have a 12-volt plug right here. So this bike has a lot of auxiliary power, which is going to be great because I really plan to use this as my primary bike to do my long distance riding with, and I'm really looking forward to having that done. Taking a look at the front here, as you can see, here's our 5¼ Pioneer speakers. These are our 4-inch kickers. The 1-inch tweeters are down here, our new radio, and the wiring is all finished. Here's the new 12 volt with the USBs and all that stuff. Over here is just the 12 volt plug. Like I said, still waiting on the fairing. It should be here, be done this week, end of this week sometime. And I'm really looking forward to that because I've got the 7-inch Eagle Light LED, and it's really going to bring all this together. I'm going to end up going with black LEDs, the Eagle Lights on these as well. But for right now, these are working just fine. Let's take a look at the wiring here. Everything is set up really, really nice. All the wiring is tied down, zip tied together. Nothing's going to rattle. Nothing's going to cause any wiring damage or anything like that. I've spent a lot of time chasing wires, cleaning up wires, and I'm very pleased with the way this works. It looks and works. This is very functional, very safe, and I know what's going on under here. And when I first got the bike, it was a rat's nest under here. There were some random things going on, some outdated stuff going on. The tweeters had come unplugged, the original tweeters that was on it. It just was not, it wasn't up to my standards. And so I'm going to be happy knowing the way everything's wired up here, the way everything looks, the way everything's tied down, zip tied, soldered, and with all the nice connectors, heat shrinked and everything. This is going to be bulletproof. One other thing I want to cover before we get too far is a couple other modifications I made to the inner fairing. When I first bought the bike, I took it out and took it for a ride, and I was getting some pretty aggressive wind buffering. This fairing sits a little bit higher than it would have originally sat on a Harley Davidson. It also had a really short windshield. So I'm going to start off with a clear 10-inch windshield. Because the fairing sits so much higher up, it's going to be imperative if I go with a taller windshield that it's clear, that way I can see through it. And I think that's going to take the wind off the top of my head and off my helmet, which is where all the buffering was kind of coming from. Another cheap upgrade I made is these wind deflectors for the side fairings. It extends the fairing out by about 3 or 4 inches, and I really think this is going to help as well. Another thing the previous bike, or the previous setup of the bike, was missing was a gasket. Between the outer fairing and the inner fairing, there was no gasket. And so there was a gap, and it just didn't look right. So when I bought the inner fairing and the outer fairing, it came with the factory gasket. And that's been installed here as well. Everything is ready to go, so when I get the new fairing, the new outer fairing after it's been painted, I can go ahead and put the headlight in, slap it on, and it's going to be all buttoned up, sealed, cut down on vibration. It's really going to look factory, like the bike. Like this Super X came from the factory set up like this. And I'm really looking forward to having the bike really come together. It's been a lot of work, quite a bit of money, a lot of effort, but the bike deserves this. And I think the community, as the Excelsior Henderson community, deserves a bike to be done well with the right parts. And that's my motivation on that. Let's move on to the next thing. This is an interesting topic that I did not bring up initially. When I first bought the bike, it had a chrome crash bar. It had the leg fairings as well. Whichever ones they purchased were cheap and flimsy, and I do not like leg fairings. It took too much wind off on my legs. I guess it would be great for wintertime, but there was no power to them, nothing like that. So I took them off. Well, what that exposed was holes drilled in the crash bars. I did not like the way that looked. I want this bike to really look nice, and I want it to function. So with all that being said, I took the old crash bars off. The interesting thing about this is that the individual who outfitted the bike retrofitted Harley Davidson crash bars on here. I assumed that they were the 1996 to 2013 Ultra Classic crash bars, like the fairing, like all the other Harley Davidson parts that are on this bike. So I went on Amazon, found a set of black crash bars that have a different contour. It drops down here Has a spot you can put your feet if you want to. I'm going to end up putting some highway pegs on here too. Gives you 2 extra places to put your feet. If you go for a long ride, you understand that it's nice to be able to adjust your leg placement, your foot placement as you ride. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's also really neat, and by happenstance, it has an X on top of these rubber foot pegs. And I really like that. It kind of pulls everything together. Obviously, as an Excelsior Henderson, everything kind of revolves around the X, and the fact that it has that on there really makes it that much better. Now let me move you around a couple places, and I'm going to show you how I was able to make this Harley-Davidson crash bar work on an Excelsior Henderson. I grabbed a screwdriver so I can kind of point these things out without getting my hands in the way. Since I put this on, I've had to cut some zip ties, and I'm going to have to tie this clutch line and this fan wire down again, but I'm going to hold that out of the way for now. What's been done to make this work, there's a metal plate that's been cut out, very thick, heavy-duty plate that's been cut out to match the contour of the chassis. There's 2 holes drilled in it with a U-bolt. That U-bolt wraps around the Harley-Davidson crash bar and then bolts into this plate. I thought this was a very unique way to go about this, and let me flip you over to the front side and I'll show you why. I grabbed a light, so hopefully you can see in here a little bit better. It's a tight fit. As you can see, the U-bolt wraps around the Harley crash bar. Right in here, there's a plate that's welded in. On the other crash bar, the top plate, the original plate for the Harley, was cut off, and that's exactly what I did. I followed along with that, and I cut that plate off. That way this U-bolt can wrap around it, making this customized plate and system work together. Moving down to the shift lever side of the bike, I have the crash bar mounted on the outside. The other crash bars were actually mounted on the inside, but on this particular model, I could not. I also had to widen this hole for the bolt. So I drilled the hole out to match this bolt size, mounted on the outside. What I ended up doing was I got this bolt started. That way the threads, everything was lined up. And then I went ahead and worked on the other side. I hope you can see in here, I got a spacer. The original crash bars that were on here had 2 plastic spacers that were right in here. I removed those. I wanted a metal one. That way I could really get it tight without crushing the plastic spacer. They're washers, but they're plastic washers, and used as spacers. I wanted to use a metal one, like I said, so I could really get a good torque on it. As you can see, there's a space out here, and this is also mounted on the inside. What I ended up using was some jacks. I had to bend this crash bar using the jacks to get it to line up and mount up like this. It took quite a bit of work, a lot of finagling, because I ended up using a C-clamp, floor jack, and a bottle jack. As you can see, I marred up the paint a little bit, but to me it doesn't really matter all that much. You can't see it down here. But I got it worked out. It looks good, it's functioning, and everything lines up really, really well. After getting the 2 bottom parts done, I used another floor jack on that left side over here, right on the bottom, using a pad so it didn't mar the paint. I applied pressure, bending this, pushing this bar over, centering the weld marks and the original mounting part that I cut off with the chassis line here. Once I lined it up, I used the U-bolt and this plate, and I tightened it all down. This keeps the crash bar lined up and looking parallel on both sides. Now, the right side, where there is a spacer, if you take a measurement, you can tell the difference. Obviously, there's a little bit of misalignment, but to the naked eye, you cannot tell whatsoever that it is not exactly parallel. And I'm okay with that. No one's really going to know unless I sit down and talk to them about it. And even then, I'm not worried about it. It's a custom setup. It works really well. It looks really, really nice. And I just want people to know, if you have an Excelsior Henderson and you don't have a factory set of crash bars, you can make a 1996 to 2013 Harley-Davidson crash bar work. What you're going to need is a 1-inch spacer, your factory bolts. You're going to have to cut off that top piece. You're going to have to make a plate just like this and use a U-bolt. Quite a bit of custom work, but it's really not that bad, and it's worth it if you want to have some crash bars. Here we are, almost perfectly lined up with the front of the bike. You can see here's the left side, and there's the right side. You cannot tell at the naked eye that these are not exactly parallel. The contour of these bars coming down, being more narrow here, having more foot placement, still a place to be able to put your other foot peg. And I can also mount a camera on here for when I do riding videos and things like that. So these crash bars have worked out really, really well. They were less than $100, so they're super cheap. The black paint looks really good. It kind of follows the black and chrome vibe I've got going on with this bike, with the black handlebars and things like that. I'm really pleased. A lot of work to get it done, but I'm really pleased with the end result. So what am I lacking on the Tour X? So far, I'm lacking the rear brake service. I'm going to go ahead and replace the brake fluid in the rear brake system. The clutch is already done, the front brake's already done. I want to go ahead and have the rear done. That way, next time I do the service on it, I can do them all three. They're already going to be ready to go. And I plan on putting a lot of miles on this bike the rest of this year. I've got some really big trips planned, and we'll go over that at the end of the video. Since I did the new clutch line, something I didn't note in the last video, but I did note in the description, Bruce Whitefoot, Grandpa Grumpy Pants on YouTube, he brought up a good point. Once you get into the system, especially if you extend the line with higher bars and things like that, you're likely going to have to adjust the clutch, and I'm going to have to adjust my clutch. The tip he gave me on telling whether you need to adjust the clutch or not: put the bike in gear, pull in the clutch, and does the bike roll? Well, it should roll freely with the clutch. Pull it with the clutch engaged, and mine does not, which tells me, and will tell you if that's happening on your bike, that your clutch needs to be adjusted. I'm going to get the perfect procedure down, and then I'm going to make a separate video. Bruce's channel is called Grandpa Grumpy Pants X World. He's got a ton of material on YouTube, really good videos, really well explained, and so way more material, way more experience than I ever have or ever will have. So go over there and check him out. He's got great stuff, and he does have a video on the clutch, the steering neck bearing, the list goes on and on. If it's an upgrade, if it's something that needs to be done or can be done on the bike, he's got just about all of it done, or has a video on it. The other thing I've got to do, like I said, the gauge cups are on back order. I'm waiting on them so I can finish up the inner fairing. Also waiting on the outer fairing to get painted. That way I can put the headlight in, slap that on. Once that's done, the bike will pretty much be finished, because by then I'll have the rear brakes done, I'll have the clutch adjusted, it's already got a fresh oil change on it. Everything's going to be done. It's going to be ready to rock and roll, put some miles down, and make sure she's good to keep rolling. Pretty much the last thing I have to do, which is a big purchase, is to order the 40-liter Viking Bags from vikingbags.com. the next big ride I've got planned is the fall rally for the Excelsior Henderson Riders Club. It's in Wisconsin Dells. It's September 4th through the 7th, which is going to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because of my work schedule, I'm going to ride up Friday and then be able to be there for Saturday and then take off sometime Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that. 750 miles up, 750 miles back, not to mention how many miles we cover during the motorcycle rally, because I'm sure there's going to be some good riding going on while I'm up there. So it's going to be a lot of miles, and I want to have the bike done, have a good shakedown run, or plenty of shakedown runs, really, get plenty of miles put on the bike before then. But that's coming up pretty fast, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see a lot of new faces, some other familiar faces, and get the the Tour X out so everybody can kind of see it, especially since the updates have been done. I really think it's going to be a big hit for everybody to see. Between then and October, I ride a lot. The weather's going to be nice. I'm going to have plenty of local rides to do by then. But in the beginning of October, I also have another ride planned with some good friends of mine to go to Savannah, Georgia. We're going to ride all the way down. It's about 6.5 hours from Middle Tennessee. That's GPS time. There's going to be 4 riders and some passengers and things like that. So it could take us anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. I'm not exactly sure, so we'll see. But the moral of the story is I've got a lot of rides planned, a lot of long trips planned, and I'm really excited to get the Tour X out and start touring. So that's about all I got for today. I just wanted to get a quick update done real quick. This is update number 4. Update number 5 is probably going to be the last. Update. And then I think what I'll do is I'm going to gather up all the history on this particular bike and then kind of just do a video on the bike itself, the history of how it started, the owners it went through, the first iteration of its Tour X customization, and then probably go over all of the modifications that I've made to it, because the bike will be done by then, and just kind of finish it up with that. Then after that, I'll just be making videos of the rides going forward and any other modifications that I make going after that. So stay tuned. I've got a lot going on with all of this. Still got 311 here in the background. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's been done. It's completely got the whole works done by Mike Seastrom at Valhalla Motorworks. So it's all factory. I'm going to put all my factory accessories, the leather saddlebags, the windshield, anything that I have that's factory Excelsior Henderson accessories is going to go on that bike just like it came from the factory. I'll probably end up doing a final walk around, a video with the history of that bike as well, because that is a bike with a ton of rich Excelsior Henderson history. So a lot of good stuff coming down the pike. So if you will, stay tuned, continue watching, subscribe, like, drop a comment, whether you like the videos, if there's tips, if there's things you'd like to see, and we'll keep this thing rolling. I appreciate you watching today. Check you on the next one.